Let's start it. Not start. Never try it again. Correct. For sure.
Hare Krishna. So today we are going to discuss chapter uh, 9 of Bhagavad Gita. Yes, we'll begin with chapter 9 today. The most confidential knowledge. Yeah. I'm just opening it. So we will discuss today the king of all knowledge. Let's start. The Supreme Personality of God it said, my dear Arjun, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully perfect. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of the enemy. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. And yet everything that is created does not rest on me. Behold my mystic happening. Although I am the maintainer of all the living entities and although I am everywhere, I am not part. I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation, for myself is the very source of creation. Understand that as the mighty wind blowing everywhere rests always in the sky, all the created beings rest in me. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, all the material manifestations enter into my nature. And at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I create them again. The whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested again and again. And under my will, it is annihilated at the end. For Dhananjay, all these words cannot bind. I am ever detached from all these material activities, seated as though neutral. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, a son of Kunti, reducing all the moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So in chapter 9, we will see text 1 to 3. Lord Krishna is speaking about what are the qualifications needed for this most confidential knowledge to be revealed. The qualifications needed to hear Krishna and assimilate. In 4 to 10, verses 4 to 10, the Lord is describing, as we just read, his inconceivable relationship with the material world. Further, in text 11 to 19, the Lord explains the Lord is comparing his devotees to impersonalists, demigod worshippers, and worshippers of Vishwarupa. The very nature of the characteristic of demigod worshippers, the Lord further explains in 20 to 28, verses 20 to 28. And then finally, then going further, uh, the 28 onward, 28 to 34, the Lord is explaining the glories of Bhakti Yoga, directly worshipping the Supreme Personality. So we will see the qualifications and the disqualifications for this Rajavidya, Rajaguhyam to be revealed in our heart. Take 1 to 3. Shri Bhagavan Vacha idam tu te kuhyatamam pravakshami anusuyati jnanam vijnana sahitam yajnatva mokshasye subha. The Supreme Personality of God itself. My dear Arjun, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. As a devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. This hearing process is recommended in Bhagavad. The messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potency, and these potencies can be realized if the topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed amongst the devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized. The devotees are constantly engaged in the Supreme Lord's service. The Lord understands the mentality and sincerity of a particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and gives him the intelligence to understand the signs of Krishna in the association of devotees. Discussion of Krishna is very important. And if a fortunate person has such association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement toward spiritual realization. But Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation in his potent service, describes in this ninth chapter matters more confidential than any he has already discussed. The very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. Second and third chapters, the spiritual knowledge described is called confidential. Topics discussed in the seventh and eighth chapters are specifically related to devotional service. And because they bring enlightenment in Krishna consciousness, they are called more confident. But the matters which are described in the ninth chapter deal with unalloyed pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confident. One who is situated in the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. He therefore has no material pang, although he is in the material world. In the Bhakti Ratamrit Sindhu, it is said that although one who has a sincere desire to render loving service to the Lord is situated in the conditional state of material existence, he is to be considered liberated. Similarly, we shall find in Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter that anyone who is engaged in that way is a liberated person. Now, this first verse has specific significance. The words idam jnanam, this knowledge, refer to pure devotional service, which consists of 9 different activities: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worship, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. By the practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. Simply to understand that the living entity is not material is not sufficient. That may be the beginning of spiritual realization, but one should recognize the difference between the activities of the body and the spiritual activities of one who understands that he is not the body. In the 7th chapter, we have already discussed the opulent potency of the Supreme Personality of God, his different energy, the inferior and superior nature, and all this material manifestation. Now, in chapter 9, the glories of the Lord will be delineated. The Sanskrit word anusuyave in this verse is also very significant. General. The commentators, even if they are highly scholarly, are envious of Krishna and the Supreme Personality of God. Even the most erudite scholars write on Bhagavad Gita very inaccurately because they are envious of Krishna. Their commentaries are useless. The commentaries given by the devotees of the Lord are bona fide. No one can explain Bhagavad Gita or give perfect knowledge of Krishna if he is envious. One who criticizes the character of Krishna without knowing him is a fool. No such commentaries should be carefully. So such commentaries should be very carefully avoided. For one who understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, pure and transcendental personality, these chapters will be very beneficial.
Mhm.
The topics of the Supreme Personality of God have the potency to destroy all the miseries of material existence. But only for one who is not envious. So, herein the Lord is declared that Krishna Katha is sure shot going to act in the association of devotees, provided one is non-envious. Why? Because one who is envious is actually not seeing Krishna in reality. Envious person is actually enamored by some or the other vibhuti or opulence of the Supreme Lord and thinking that opulence to be all in all, one wants to achieve it. The person who is envious of Krishna is actually glared or maddened by some or the other vibhuti. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. So, like Lord Krishna has multiplied his energy. So when one gets attracted to the energy of Krishna, then one is not seeing Krishna really, one is seeing Maya. And thus one is getting captivated by it. That will be the breeding ground of envy. We can see envy only acts on the material platform. Envy only acts on a material platform. So on the spiritual platform, in spiritual vision, there is no envy. Envy is only about material qualities. That is the point. Like one sees maybe some rich man is coming to a temple, very affluent, right? When you start feeling envious, oh, uh, I was more qualified, but I'm sitting in the temple. Envy can come. Material qualities. Envy is only about material qualities. We see a devotee singing very nicely, everybody appreciating him. Envy can come. Material qualities. But envy doesn't come. Any spiritual quality, envy doesn't come. The envy will not come. Because envy always comes in material vision. So if we don't know Krishna in reality, then one has material. And material vision, one is captivated by external energy, Maya, and that leads to envy. On the material ground, envy prevails. Like some devotee is chanting very nicely, will not feel envious of. But somebody is getting, say, a lot of boys in his preaching group for Utkarsha, one may tend to feel envious. Why? Because material vision. Wherever there is material vision, we are seeing material stats, there is envy. The Ekadashi, some devotee is chanting, uh, like in the temple, it is announced, okay, Prabhus, today is Ekadashi. So, how many devotees are going to chant 64 rounds? Haribo. So, only the devotee making announcement is raising his hand. So, he's looking here and there, and everybody is saying, oh, Haribol, Haribol, very nice. You keep chanting. We have different things to do. We'll push up whenever we want. So, nobody feeling envious. Hey, this devotee chanting 64, I should also. No? Nobody, everybody is very satisfied. No problem, no problem. You keep chanting. No? The envy doesn't come in spiritual qualities, it only comes in material qualities. When you see devotees more sincerely practice and more regular in sadhana, then I also get envy. No, we have to see here. We are getting envy because the devotee doing more sadhana, or we are more regularly practicing, or we are getting envy because the devotee is getting appreciation because of that sadhana. What are we really envious of? So, are we envious of sadhana? Or are we envious that the devotee has a lot of respectability or name fame because of his very good sadhana? That is something we have to question. That's something we have to question. So now the point is, uh, so mostly we feel the problem comes when we see that uh, uh, a devotee doing some spiritual activity more gets some appreciation. That may be painful to us. That's it. But somebody not getting appreciation, just doing it, just doing it. Do we care? So you see, the nature of envy is a person who is envious is not attracted to any spiritual quality. Because if we are attracted to spiritual quality, if we are really attracted to spiritual quality, means we are really attracted to Krishna. And if we are really attracted to Krishna and really attracted to spiritual quality, in any devotee, if we see that spiritual quality in higher magnitude, we cannot be envious. The person, a sincere devotee who is really attracted to Krishna, will be ecstatic, understanding that okay, here is a devotee manifesting it in high degree. This is the proof that bhakti is working. So this devotee is manifesting in high degree. This now let me take shelter of. Let me associate with. So that is the point. No envy. Like Srila Raghunandan Thakur, the little boy in Srikhanda, he came to know Srila Abhiram Gopal Thakur is coming, has come to Srikhanda. He was running to meet him, running to meet him. Not that he was envious. Now, apparently, Abhiram Gopal Thakur has a lot of siddhis, manifest siddhis. But Raghunandan was a small little boy. He was so ecstatic. So there's no question of envy if our vision is spiritual. Now, the point is the effect of envy is that we will not be able to take shelter of the 9 processes of devotion and service. And therefore, as a result of that, the efficacy of the 9 processes of devotional service will not be realized. And what is the efficacy? The removal of the material miseries. That is why Krishna is telling Shraddhavante Anusuyante. Anusuyante is because only when one is Anusuyante, that is, without envy, one will actually be able to take in the 9 processes of devotion and service. And if we take in the 9 processes of devotional service, then the material miseries are going to be removed. So an envious person will interface the processes of bhakti. How? Just like a person who's taking a medicine and vomiting it out immediately. He's taking it in, vomiting it out immediately. So if it has taken in and immediately vomited it out, it has not gone into the body, it has not gone into the bloodstream. So how will it bring an effect? In the same way, the 9 processes of devotional service are like pills. And when we have the right attitude, the attitude of gratitude and humility and service attitude, when there is in the heart there is this humility and gratitude, then what will happen is that these pills of the activities of Navavidha Bhakti will go in and will get dissolved and will go into the bloodstream and thus will be circulating all over the body. And that is how person will get cured. If that doesn't happen, if that doesn't happen, then the effect of that medicine, the Navida Bhakti will not be realized and one will still experience the misery of this material world. Envy will lead to when one is envious, then one will not take in the right things. One will not take in the right spirit. One will not take in the right things. So one will vomit. How? Because the essence one will omit, and in that way one will vomit. And therefore, for such a person, the practice of Krishna consciousness appears to be uh, very miserable. But Krishna consciousness is not miserable. Krishna consciousness pratyakshavagavam dharmyam. Now Lord is going to explain that in verse 2. Susukham kartum mandhyam. So how can one be miserable? One is only miserable because one has not taken it. So envious person never has a true knowledge of Krishna. That is why in 529 the Lord says, true knowledge of Krishna is Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwar Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Natva Mam Shantim Richate. Krishna is the enjoyer of all activities. Let us give enjoyment to Krishna more and more and more. That's how sincere Sadhika is saying. Everything is under the control of Krishna. Therefore, let's not be fearful, let's not be insecure, but carry on with the duties of Krishna consciousness with enthusiasm and determination. And Krishna is our supreme well-wisher. So the Lord is always going to act for the benefit of the living entities. What to say of the devotee, the living entity? The devotee who knows this doesn't get disturbed by the crush and trough, the situations of this material world, uh, the crush and troughs with which the situations of this material world take. So the person is always steadfast. Let's read further. 9.2.
Because we want to get pleasure, no one has Krishna. We want to enjoy Krishna. We desire Krishna.
Yeah.
Everybody is attracted to Krishna. Everybody is attracted.
Yeah, captivation to any sense gratification will lead to envy. This goes to show that a materialistic person, a karmamisha bhakta, jnanamisha bhakta, both of them will be envious. Because material vision means envy. So one has to give up envy, one has to actually upgrade oneself to spiritual vision. And the upgradation to spiritual vision happens when we commit to Guru's mission.
When
Commit to Guru's mission, then we get spiritual vision. That's the point. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram.
like, because till the time we have the mentality of expecting pleasure in our life, we feel miserable. Because when definitely if we give pleasure to Krishna, then pleasure will come in our life. We want to have pleasure in our life, not caring about Krishna, and then land up in.
Yes. We don't give pleasure to Krishna, we seek for our own pleasure, we'll end up in this.
अवतार सारा बड़ा अवतार
Hmm.
कधी नीरे भाषा गेला नाही प्यासा आपण त्यात अंत केलं सदाचे वेगळे नाव प्रेम कल्प करू नाचने की
Yes. 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 Material pleasures, eating bamboo. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyakshavagavam Dharmyam Susukham Kartumavyayam. So Krishna consciousness is self-manifested peaceful. So this knowledge is the king of education. The translation, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realizing, it is the perfection of it. It is everlasting and it is joyfully perfect. This chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called King of Education because it is the essence of all the doctrines and the philosophies explained before. Among the principal philosophers in India are Gautama, Kannada, Kapila, Yajnavalkya, Sandilya, and Vaishnava. And finally, there is Vyasadeva, the author of Vedanta Sutra. So there is no dearth of knowledge in the field of philosophy or transcendental knowledge. Now the Lord says that this ninth chapter is the king of all such knowledge, the essence of all knowledge that can be derived from the study of Veda and the different kinds of philosophy. It is the most confidential because confidential or transcendental knowledge involves understanding the difference between the soul and the body. And the king of all confidential knowledge culminates in devotional service. Generally, people are not educated in this confidential knowledge. They are educated in external knowledge. As far as ordinary education is concerned, people are involved with so many departments: politics, sociology, physics, chemistry, maths, astronomy, engineering, etc. There are so many departments of knowledge all over the world. and many huge universities. But unfortunately, no university or educational institution where the science of the spirit soul is instructed. Yet the soul is the most important part of the body. Without the presence of the soul, the body has no value. Still, people are placing great stress on the bodily necessities of life, not caring for the vitals. The Bhagavad Gita, especially from the second chapter on, stresses the importance of the soul. In the very beginning, the Lord says that this body is perishable and the soul is not perishable. Antavanta ime deha nitya sukta sharirina. That is a confidential part of knowledge. Simply knowing that the spirit soul is different from the body and that its nature is immutable, indestructible, and eternal. But that does not give any positive information about the soul. Sometimes people are under the impression that the soul is different from the body, and when the body is finished or one is liberated from the body, the soul remains in a void and becomes impersonal. But actually, that is not the fact. How can the soul, which is so active within the body, be inactive after being liberated from the body? It is always active. If it is eternal, then it is eternally active, and its activities in the spiritual kingdom are the most confidential part of spiritual knowledge. These activities of the spirit self are therefore indicated here as constituting the king of all knowledge, the most confidential part of all knowledge. This knowledge is the purest of all activities, as explained in the Vedic. In the Padma Puran, man's sinful activities have been analyzed and are shown to be the results of sin after sin. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities are entangled in different stages and forms of sinful reaction. For instance, when the seed of a particular tree is sown, the tree does not immediately appear to grow. It takes some time. It is first a small, sprouting plant, then it assumes the form of a tree, and it flowers and bears fruits. And when it is complete, the flowers and fruits are enjoyed by persons who have sown this tree. Similarly, a man performs a sinful act, and like a seed, it takes time to fructify. There are different stages. A sinful man may have already stopped within. Okay, the sinful action may have already stopped within the individual, but the results and fruit of that sinful action are still to be enjoyed. There are sins which are in the form of a seed, and there are others which are already fructified and giving us fruit, which we are enjoying as distress and pain. As explained in the 28th verse of the 7th chapter, a person who is completely ended the reactions of all the sinful acts and who is fully engaged in pious activity, being freed from the duality of the material world, becomes engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna. In other words, those who are actually engaged in the devotional service of the Lord are freed from all the reactions. The statement is confirmed in Padma Purana. Aprarabdha phalam papam kotam bijam phalonmukham क्रमेणैव प्रलीयेत विष्णुभक्तिरतात्मना. For those who are engaged in devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the sinful reactions, whether fructified in the stalk or in the form of the seed, gradually vanish. Therefore, the purifying potency of devotional service is very strong, and it is called Pavitram Tamam. Uttama means transcendental, and tamas means the material world or darkness. Uttama means transcendental. Uttama means that which is transcendental to material activity. Devotional activities are never to be considered material, although sometimes it appears that devotees are engaged just like ordinary men. One who can see and is familiar with devotional service will know that they are not material activities. They are all spiritual and devotional, uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. It is said that the execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can perceive the results directly. This direct result is actually perceived, and we have practical experience. That any person who is chanting the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare, in the course of chanting without offense, feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination. This is actually seen. Furthermore, if one engages not only in hearing, but in trying to broadcast the message of devotional activities as well, or if he engages himself in helping the missionary activities of Krishna consciousness, he gradually feels spiritual progress. This advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous education or qualification. The method itself is so pure that simply by engaging in it, one becomes. In the Vedanta Sutra, this is also described with the word Prakashascha Karmani Abhyasa. Devotional service is so potent that simply by engaging in the activities of devotional service, one becomes enlightened without a doubt. A practical example of this can be seen in the previous life of Narada, who at that who in that life happened to be the son of a maid servant. He had no education, nor was he born in a high family. But when his mother was engaged in serving great devotees, Narada also became engaged. And sometimes, in the absence of his mother, he would serve the great devotees himself. Narada personally says, Uchishtale pananumodito dvijo sakrit sama punjate tadapastakil vijay. Evam pravattasya vishuddhachetasa tadharma evatma ruchi prajayate. So, in this verse from Bhagavatam, first canto, fifth chapter, text 25, Narada describes his previous life to his disciple Vyasa. He says that while engaged as a boy servant for those purified devotees during the 4 months of their stay, he was intimately associated with them. Sometimes those sages left remnants of food on their dishes, and the boy who would wash the dishes wanted to taste the remnants. So he asked the great devotees for their permission, and when they gave it, Narada ate the remnants and consequently became freed from all sinful behavior. As he went on eating, he gradually became as pure-hearted as the sages. The great devotees relished the taste of unceasing devotional service to the Lord by hearing and chanting, and Narada gradually developed the same taste. Narada says further, Tantravaham Krishna Katha Pragayata Anugrahena Shrinva Shrinavam Manoharaha Tashaddhadhaya Me Anupadam Visinvataha Priyashravasi Anga Mama Bhavatruchi. By associating with the sages, Narada got the taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, and he developed a great desire for devotional service. Therefore, as described in the Vedanta Sutra, Prakashasya Karmani Abhyasat. If one is engaged simply in the acts of devotional service, everything is revealed to him automatically and he can understand. This is called Yaksha. Directly perceived. The word Dharmayam means the path of religion. Narada was actually a son of a maid servant. He had no opportunity to go to school. He was simply assisting his mother. And fortunately, his mother rendered some service to the devotee. So the child Narada also got the opportunity. And simply by that association, he achieved the highest goal of all religion. So the highest goal of all religion is devotional service. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo Yato Bhakti. Religious people generally do not know that the highest perfection of religion is the attainment of devotional service. As we have already discussed in regard to the last verse of the 8th chapter, Vedeshu Yagyeshu Tapahashitayo. Generally, all the Vedic knowledge is required. So, generally, Vedic knowledge is required for self realization. But here, although Narada never went to the school of the spiritual master and was not educated in the Vedic principles, he acquired the highest results of Vedic study. So, the process is so potent that even without performing the religious process regularly, one will be raised to the highest perfection. How is this possible? So, this is also confirmed in the Vedic literature, Acharyavan Purusho Veda. One who is in association with great acharyas, even if he is not educated or has never studied the Vedas, can become familiar with the knowledge necessary for realization. The process of devotional service is a happy one. Why? Because devotional service consists of Shavanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. So one can simply hear the chanting of the glories of the Lord and can attend philosophical lectures on transcendental knowledge given by authorized acharyas. Simply by sitting, one can learn. And then one can eat the remnants of the food offered to God, nice palatable dishes. In every state, devotional service is checked. One can execute devotional services even in the most poverty-stricken tradition. The Lord says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toya. He is ready to accept from the devotee any kind of offering, never mind what. Even a leaf of flower, a bit of fruit, or a little water, which are all available in every part of the world, can be offered by any person regardless of social position and will be accepted if offered with. There are many instances in history, simply by tasting the tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. Great sages like Sanat Kumar became great devotees. Therefore, the devotional service is very nice. And it can be executed in a happy mood. So God accepts only the love with which the things are offered to Him. It is said here this devotional service is eternally existing. That is not as the Mayavadi philosophers claim, although they sometimes take to the so called devotional service. Their idea is that as long as they are not liberated, they will continue the devotional service, but at the end, when they are liberated, they become one with God. No, such temporary time serving devotional service is not accepted as pure devotional service. Actually, devotional service continues even after liberation. When the devotee goes to the spiritual world in the kingdom of God, he is also engaged there in serving the Supreme. He does not try to become one with the Supreme Lord. As will be seen in Bhagavad Gita, actual devotional service begins after liberation. After one is liberated, when one is situated in the Brahman platform, one's devotional service begins. Samah sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim lagate param. No one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by undergoing karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, or any other yoga independently. By these yogic methods, one may make a little progress towards bhakti yoga, but without coming to the stage of devotion and service, one cannot understand the personality of God. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also confirmed that when one becomes purified by executing the processes of devotion and service, especially by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita from realized souls, then he can understand the science of Krishna, the science of Bhakti. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata. When one's heart is cleared of all nonsense, then one can understand what God is. Thus, the process of devotional service of Krishna consciousness is the king of all education. And the king of all confidential knowledge. It is the purest form of religion and it can be executed joyfully without any difficulty. Therefore, one should adopt it. So this knowledge is the king of all education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, It is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is perfect. Srila Prabhupada explains that in chapter 2 and 3, there is a knowledge of the body soul which is given. The body and the spirit, the body and the spirit. So that is confidential. The difference between the living person and the dead person. That is confidential. So why it is confidential? Because with our eyes we only perceive the material vision. Material body is what we can see. But then the soul within, which is activating the material body, which is the reality, that is confidential. That is mystical. That is hidden. But then Prabhupada explains that chapter 7 and 8 talks about the activities of the soul. That is more confidential. So, activities. It's like the photograph of something. You know? So photograph, if the photograph is confidential, the video is more confidential.
And life is more confidential.
The video is more confidential. You know? Like that. And so the video, huh? And experiencing life, most confidential. So body, soul, that we are not the body or the soul. Not, we understand from the intellectual point of view, we're not a body, we are the soul, we're not a body, we're the soul. That's confidential because we have got the photograph. So, like that. Activities of the soul. That's more confident. A pure devotional service, most confidential. It's experiencing life. That's what the Lord is saying. Pratyaksh avagamam. So, what is the problem if one does not practice pure devotional service? The problem is things only remain theoretical. So, things only remain intellectual. And when things remain simply intellectual, then it is, if things only remain at the intellectual plane, then it is quite irritating. Because intellectually one understands this is what one is supposed to get, and when one doesn't get it, one may get irritated. That is the reason bhakti should not be mixed with amalgamation. Fruitive activities, yoga, jnana, karma. Because if one mixes bhakti, then one will not be able to experience the pratyakshavagaman dharmyam will not happen. So what is bhakti? It is explained. So bhakti is a very sweet process. So bhakti begins with association of devotees. And when we are in association of devotees, that's where everything starts. So when one is in the association of devotees, if one takes in the essence of that association, that inspiration, that dedication, then that should lead to practice. Rather committed practice or commitment of practice. And that commitment will lead to realization. The beautiful example of Narada boy is given here. Narada boy having no qualification. See, Prabhupada is explaining now the boy was not even literate, he was illiterate. Now the boy having no qualification. He is just sitting beside the association of devotees and he is trying to hear and serve them heartily with great respect and affection for these Bhaktivedanta. He's getting a taste for Krishna. So much so his own mother dies later, soon enough. And Narada boy immediately takes result of what he has learned from the Bhaktivedantas and therefore immediately takes shelter of Krishna. So that means what? Narada boy did not keep any reservation in following or applying the tenets of Bhagavad Gita, the tenets of Bhakti, which the Bhaktivedantas would demonstrate. He did not give any reservation. So therefore, the ninefold activities of Bhakti are very important. The association of devotees can give a trigger, but that trigger should transform into a vigor for performance of the ninefold activities. If the trigger does not lead to or evoke a vigor to perform the Navavida Bhakti activity, then the Pratyakshavagaman Dharmyam doesn't take place. So Prabhupada is explaining that these processes of devotional service, they are pavitra, very purifying to the heart. So Prabhupada is saying all these sinful activities are like a seed. Something may be seed form, something is fructifying and giving a very miserable result. All these seeds can be destroyed by the practice of bhakti. Karma nirdahati kintu ja bhakti bhaja. And that is the only way. So what is that process which can get us rid of all the sinful activities? Diksha Gom- Can actually destroy all the seeds and weeds of sinful reaction. Mind it, no other process can do that. See, Chitraketu Maharaj, he wanted Chitraketu Maharaj, he wanted uh, the sinful karmic reaction to get burnt off so that he can enjoy a son. He had a very strong karmic karma. So therefore, in spite of having many wives, he was not having a single son, and he was very upset. So even he took shelter of a devotee, and Angina Muni tried to help also. Huh? Angina Muni tried to help, then also that karmic reaction did not get lost. It just changed its shape and form and came in the other way. Yeah. This is so ridiculous. I mean, this is so funny. What's, so what's funny in this is In one sense, this is so funny. What the funny thing in this is, you see, Chitraketu Maharaj is taking shelter of a devotee. And still his karmani nirdhati kintu jo bhakti bhaja is not happening. So the association of devotee is supposed to set the ignition, but it's not happening. His karma is not destroyed and it comes in the other way. The reason is, because, now this is the funny thing. The reason is, Chitraketu Maharaj went to a devotee, but he's asking the devotee to supply some material. That means he's asking the devotee to for material facilitation. And and Angira Muni, to try to help him, goes to that extent. He said, okay, let it be. Let it be material facilitation, no problem. But even though a devotee was involved, because it was material facilitation, it did not burn the karma. Had Chitraketu Maharaj sat at the lotus feet of Angira Muni and heard from him Krishna Gatha, his karma would have been removed. And because his karma would have been removed, probably by the removal of the karma, he could have got some son also. No, some sons he might have could have, because it was his karma which was creating the blockage. But kintu ja bhakti bhaja karma nirdhati. So that karma could have been burned. And then Chitraketu Maharaj would have actually got a son also, but it's hooked to the son and not to Krishna or not to a Vaishnava or not to Krishna Katha or not to Vaishnav Seva, because his hook to the son led him to lose his own son. If he was hooked to Krishna, probably his karma would have burnt and he could have got a son or multiple sons. But because he did not do that, he lost his own son. Who is responsible? He himself. He himself. He had the chance. He had the chance. His karma was not manifest. Harshashok was born, but Harshashok was not killed so easily. I mean, he was killed later. But as soon as Harshashoka was born, if Chitraketu Maharaj could have taken to devotional service, and at least at that time invited Angira Muni for spiritual discourse and listen and apply, then he would not have to see this way. You don't approach a devotee for material facilitation. If you do that, even if the devotee helps us to encourage us, we may still not find ourselves, uh, burnt of all sinful reactions. But when one takes shelter of a devotee on the spiritual plane, then karmani nirdahati kintu jabhakti bhaja. So therefore, it is said here that the results of the practice of bhakti are directly visible. We see in Narad life how his attraction to Krishna got so much reinforced. So much so that his mother is dead, but still he is walking on the path of Krishna consciousness. Let's read further. अशत्रदान पुरुषात् धर्मस्य से परन्तप अप्राप्य माम निवर्तन्ते मृत्यु संसार वर्त्मनि हरि बोल. Those who are not faithful in devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of the enemy. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. Yeah. The faithless cannot accomplish this process of devotional stuff. That is the purpose of this world. Faith is created by association with the body. Unfortunate people, even after hearing all the evidence of the Vedic literature from great personalities, still have no faith in God. They are hesitant and still cannot stay fixed in devotional service. So faith is the most important factor for progress in Krishna consciousness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that faith is a complete conviction that simply by serving the Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna, one will achieve all perfection. Shraddha Shabda Vishwaseti Sudrida Nishchay Krishna Bhakti Kaila Sarv Karma Krita Hai. Bhagavatam says 4:31-14 Yatha Taro Mula Nishechanena Kripyanti Taskandam Upashak Pranopahara Chachate Chayatendriyana Tathaiva Sarvahana Machute. By giving water to a root of the tree, one satisfies its branches, twigs, and leaves. And by supplying food to the stomach, one satisfied all the senses of the body. Similarly, by engaging in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, one automatically satisfies all the demigods and all the living entities. Therefore, after reading Bhagavad Gita, one should promptly come to the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. What is that? One should give up all other engagements and adopt the service of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the personality of God. If one is convinced of this philosophy of life, that is called as faith. Now, the development of that faith is the process of Krishna consciousness. There are three divisions of Krishna consciousness. In the third class are those who have no faith. Even if they are officially engaged in devotional service, they cannot achieve the highest perfectional state. Most probably, they will slip after some time. They may become engaged, but because they have not complete conviction and faith, it's very difficult for them to continue in Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So we have practical experience in discharging a missionary activity. Some people come and apply themselves to Krishna consciousness with some hidden motive. As soon as they are economically a little well situated, they give up the process and take to their old ways again. It is only by faith that one can advance in Krishna consciousness. As far as the development of faith is concerned, one who is well versed in the literatures of devotional service and has attained the stage of firm faith, is the first class person. And the second class are those who are not very advanced in understanding the devotional scripture, but who automatically have firm faith that Krishna Bhakti or service to Krishna is the best course, and so in good faith have taken it. The third class person in Krishna consciousness may fall down, but one in a second class he does not fall down. In the first class, there is no chance of falling. One in the first class may surely make progress and achieve the result at the end. As far as the third class person in Krishna consciousness is concerned, although he has faith in the conviction, the devotional service to Krishna is very good. He has not yet gained adequate knowledge of Krishna's scriptures like Bhagavatam and Gita. Sometimes these third class persons in Krishna consciousness have some tendency towards karma and jnana, and sometimes they are disturbed. But as soon as the infection of karma yoga or jnana yoga is went, they become second class or first class persons in Krishna consciousness. Faith in Keshava is also divided into three stages and described in Bhagavatam. First class attachment, second class attachment, third class attachment. Faith is a very important. Okay, so faith is very important in the discharge of devotional service. Mm. So it is very important to understand that faith, you see, faith is not a state, faith is a decision, faith is commitment. Therefore, Prabhupada is quoting Shraddha Shabda Vishwasya iti Sutrada that Drid Sankalpa, that I will do Krishna consciousness, and simply by Krishna consciousness, everything else will be satisfied. Simply by performing devotional service, everything will. So faith is a matter of commitment and choice. So Prabhupada is explaining about the three types of men, three types of attachment. Prabhupada is saying the third class men, they need guidance. They'll get bewildered every now and then. So somebody has to automatically focus on. The second class man starts getting some hang on how to do it for herself. She could not map for it. See, faith is a matter of commitment. If the practice of devotional service is allowed to act in our life, it will create a transformation. But mostly people don't allow the process of devotional service to act. And that's why we require that faith. The commitment to act, the commitment to allow the process to get installed, to manifest, and to bring forth along with all the oceanic divine empowerment. That is faith. So Prabhupada explains, okay, third class needs guidance. He issued medical support. Second class knows that it works for himself, but he cannot map it on everyone. First class devotee can do that. Second class cannot. So the commitment to the commitment to allow the process to work on us, to act on us. That is what the Lord is appealing here. And the Lord is saying somebody doesn't do that, then such a person will not gain any knowledge. The whole thing ends on Okay, so let's stop here for today. Do you have any questions? So the next section about Lord Krishna's inconceivable nature and material energy, 4 to 10, we'll take it up in the next class. Hari Bol, Granth Raj Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai. Hari Bol.